All right, so other than the original format where you just start from scratch and add in your own titles, you can also use the Google Docs template, Science Lab report, and then all of this stuff is just nonsense words that you delete. But this is where you would put like a title or a subtitle, obviously replace your name with your name, etc. Not 8th grade science, biology. Introduction. So this is where you're going to use the resources I've already given to you to help you figure out what to include. So I'm going to delete the nonsense stuff that they already had in introduction. And I'm going to look through the different handouts that I have about this project. So I have this one that is called Lab Report Format. And if I just skim it really quickly, this kind of introduces what I'm supposed to be turning in. And we're going to say due Monday the 18th, extra credit if it's in by the 15th. So down here it says the introduction describes the topic you're studying, how it relates to your experiment, and you state your hypothesis at the end. Okay, so if I look at my template, it already has a place for hypothesis right after the introduction. Other than that, I'm going to basically transfer the information that I'm supposed to have in my in my introduction to my document, and that way I make sure that I cover everything in the like syllabus or the requirements, and I can get started even if I'm not done collecting data. So I'm going to take that stuff right there, and it says describes the topic and how it relates to experiment. Cool. And I'm going to continue to do that for the rest of this page. So down with procedure, I'm going to like check what my guide says. It's a description of the experiment, possibly including a sketch, name the variable. It says experimental variable. That's the same thing as the independent variable. And then list your controlled variables as well. All right. So basically I'm combining all of this information I have about the lab report into one document, and that's going to help me get started. So I also have this handout on a rubric for the science fair project. And when I'm looking for what to do, I'm going to focus on the like stellar and well done boxes. I'm going to look for the differences between them to see like what I need to make sure I'm including. So new, meaningful, well-researched problem. I'm going to assume that Ms. Schulte helped me take care of that when she was looking at my ideas. Clearly stated in the if-then format. I feel like I remember Ms. Schulte saying that it doesn't have to be in that format. So I'm actually Ms. Schulte, and I'm going to confirm that. As long as it's clearly stated, then you would have you could achieve the 5 points. Although I'm going to say to get the 5 points, you include the null hypothesis. Okay, background research. I don't have a section for that in my document, but I'm going to use logical thinking, figure out that's the same thing as the introduction. And I might add some information from here and type it in my document online. So it says research is thorough, specific, and has many examples. Ideas are explained. History, pros and cons are addressed. So in my introduction, I'm going to be talking about, other research that people have done related to what I'm doing. If I'm doing how plant food affects the growth of plants, I'm going to look at how maybe they've used that in agriculture, or how they've used that to grow food, how they used it before chemicals. This part, the materials procedure, the difference between excellent and well done is that this one says this one says all materials are listed, and this one says most materials are listed. So I'm going to make sure to be listing at everything that I use, if I take pictures and like look over those as I'm writing out my materials, I can make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Okay. Sample size is appropriate and explained. Let's say I don't understand that. That's something that I'm going to mark as asking Ms. Schulte in a question. I might email her with that question. It's probably the best way to do it. Or I might ask it at the beginning of class when everyone can hear, because other people might have the same question. Sample size is how many plants you're testing. So ideally, if I want to know whether plant food is affecting a plant, I'm not going to just do 2 plants, one with and one without. If I really want to make it scientific, I'm going to have several plants of each so that I know it's not just an individual difference between the plants. Backside. Okay, so you're going to continue this comparison on your own of data collection, analysis, which is same as conclusion, and then you're going to ignore this visual display part until the spring, okay? Because we're only doing a paper, not a poster. In your project, you're also going to have a data table and a graph of your data. So again, you're going to go through and you're going to focus on the 4 points. There's really no reason that you need to be reading the 3, 2, 1 points, because you are just going to be going through. So most of this stuff looks pretty typical. As far as making sure that I have a title, straight lines, labels, some of the other stuff with these decimal things, hundredths and thousandths, I'm going to maybe ask Ms. Schulte if that applies to my situation or if that's only for like really complicated projects. Same thing with the graph. I'm going to have the type of graph with a descriptive title, label the axes, all that other fun stuff. And I'm going to continue going through the materials that I have about this project and adding information from those materials into the actual document that I'm going to be submitting, so that I know I don't forget anything. I have basically like sentence starters in front of me, and I am aware of anything I don't understand I need to ask about early. So, in this packet, I have a list of examples as far as what I can do for a title, the effect of this independent variable on that dependent variable. I have a description of whether I need repeated trials and what that means, what I need to think about keeping constant, and specific examples about using this design diagram to make sure that you understand all aspects of your experiment. This design diagram is duplicated in your template in Google Docs because they already have like a data table in there for you. You just have to add in the labels. Okay? That's all for now.